Chapter 1. The chandeliers of the luxury restaurant glowed like captured stars, reflecting off crystal glasses and polished silverware as the city's richest men dined without a second thought, and among them sat Adrian Blackwood, a billionaire known for his cold precision, his tailored black suit fitting like armor, his face unreadable as he reviewed numbers on his phone instead of the food before him, when suddenly the low hum of wealth and whispered conversations was pierced by a small, trembling voice, "Dad." The word landed softly but with impossible weight, and Adrian looked up, irritated at first, then confused, then frozen, because standing beside his table was a poor little girl no older than 7, her dress thin and faded, her shoes worn through at the toes, her eyes wide with hunger and something deeper, recognition. The waiter rushed over, apologizing, trying to shoo her away, but Adrian raised a hand without realizing it, his gaze locked on the child as she stared at him like he was the answer to every prayer she had ever whispered. "Dad," she said again, louder this time, and the restaurant seemed to hold its breath. Adrian's heart began to pound, an unfamiliar, unwelcome sensation, and he leaned forward, lowering his voice. "You have the wrong person, little girl," but she shook her head fiercely, curls bouncing, and said a name that hadn't been spoken to him in over a decade, a name buried under contracts, scandals, and money, Lena. The sound of it shattered him. Memories crashed back like a flood he'd spent years building walls against, a tiny apartment, a woman with tired eyes and stubborn hope, promises he never kept, the night he chose ambition over responsibility. His fork clattered onto the plate as murmurs rippled through the room. The girl stepped closer, clutching her stomach as it growled audibly, embarrassment flashing across her face, and whispered, "Mom said you used to call her that when you loved her." Adrian stood up slowly, the chair scraping loudly, ignoring the stares, the cameras already lifting in the distance, and knelt in front of her, searching her face for proof he didn't want to find, but it was there, in the shape of her eyes, the curve of her mouth, the way she looked at him with hope instead of fear. "Where is your mother?" he asked, his voice breaking despite himself. The girl swallowed. "Outside. She didn't want me to come in, but I was so hungry, and then I saw you, and I knew. Mom cries when she talks about you." That single sentence hit harder than any business loss he had ever suffered. Adrian glanced toward the tall glass windows and saw a woman standing across the street, thin coat wrapped tightly around herself, watching the restaurant with a mix of shame and desperation, ready to run the moment security came. He stood up, turned to the stunned waiter, and said quietly but firmly, "Bring another chair. And food. The best you have." The manager rushed over, confused, but one look at Adrian's face silenced any protest. The girl climbed into the chair carefully, eyes lighting up as plates were set before her, but before touching anything, she looked up at him and said, "Is it okay?" That question broke him completely. Adrian nodded, tears threatening to fall in a room where he had never allowed weakness, and watched as she ate slowly, savoring every bite like it might disappear if she moved too fast. Around them, phones recorded, whispers grew, but none of it mattered. For the first time in years, the numbers didn't matter. When she finished, she wiped her mouth with the napkin like she'd seen others do and smiled at him, a small, crooked smile that felt like forgiveness he hadn't earned. "I knew you'd help," she said simply. Adrian closed his eyes, taking a breath that felt like confession. "I didn't know. I should have been there." Outside, the woman he once loved watched through tears as Adrian walked out of the restaurant holding the girl's hand, the world stunned into silence as the billionaire stopped in front of her, voice shaking, and said the words that would change everything, "I'm sorry. I'm ready now." That night, headlines would explode, opinions would divide, but none of that mattered compared to the quiet moment when a poor little girl finally heard her father say her name. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because every subscribe helps us share more powerful stories of hope, truth, and second chances, stories that remind us that no matter how rich or poor you are, one word, one moment, can change a life forever.